Okay, I've got my file that I got online. First thing I need to do is check the image mode, make sure it's CMYK color. Then I need to change the image size. Change the image size to 300 pixels per inch, making sure that all three checkboxes are on. Hit OK. Next up, I need to change the brightness and contrast of the image to make this image into pure black and white. So I'll up the contrast, making sure that legacy is on, and I'll up the brightness. I'll zoom out a bit, bring contrast all the way up, make it into pure black and white, brightness, okay. I'm going to unlock my background layer, and I'm going to get my magic wand tool, making sure that contiguous is deselected, and I'm going to select all the black by clicking on it. Having done that, I can go into my paths window and select from the paths pull down menu, make work path. 1 is the tolerance, hit OK. I've now traced my pixel artwork with a vector path. I can make a new layer now in my layers window and make a selection in my paths window by clicking this make selection button or make selection. Feather radius should be 0. I'll turn this layer invisible, my bottom layer, on this new layer. I'm going to go edit, fill, and use black. Hit OK. I've now got high quality artwork. I can delete the original layer by hitting the trash can in the bottom of the layers window and deselect. Now I'm going to work with an area to color. So I'm going to make a new layer, drag that underneath. This will be my color layer. I can double click on the words in the layer, name it color. Well, this will be black lines or ink, whatever you want to call it. That layer should be set to multiply and then locked. Now with my magic wand I need to put contiguous on. Contiguous means contained area, and I want contained areas, and I also want to sample from all layers because the layer that I'm going to be working on doesn't actually have anything on it. So select the blue. Now I need to expand my selection, and I'm going to create an action because I'm going to be doing this step a lot. So I just deleted an old action. Now, what actions do is record what your computer is doing, so I hit record, and I'm going to go select, modify, expand. Before I do this, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm actually up to. When I expand my selection by 2 pixels, actually make a new action first. New action. Call it expand selection record. When I expand my selection, you'll see now my selection goes into the black, which is much better. I'll stop this action, and I can put a function key to that action so that I can hit F6 now to just expand my selection. So every time I hit F6, my selection will expand. Okay, having done that, my next step, I don't need the actions anymore, is to fill our flat colors. So I pick a color, usually a dark color. I use the swatches palette for this often. Pick a dark blue, edit, fill, use foreground color at 100%, I hit OK. Okay, you can see I missed a spot there. I'm going to deselect and just brush that with a brush. Select it again, and I'm going to turn this layer invisible so that I get as much blue as possible. Turn the layer back on, then I'm going to use a gradient. Next step after flats is gradients, so I can get a lighter blue, like say this one for my swatches, making sure that my gradient is set to foreground to transparent. Then I will drag the gradient down to give an indication of a light source. That was too much, so if I ever do anything too much, I can go under Edit, Fade, Gradient, and I'll fade it to 62% or less. That looks good. Okay, having done that, now I need to start working with my shadow. So I'll select a specific area to work with. I have a feather on, which makes my selection slightly soft. It's not a big feather, it's only 3, so it won't be that noticeable. And now I kind of draw the area that I'm going to be coloring. If I'm in the black, it doesn't matter what I do because the black will hide the edges of the selection. So next step, shadow, get my brush tool. I can pick a color here, or I'll go into my swatches. And I'm going to make my brush by right-clicking, very soft and a bit larger. There. That was hardly visible, so I'll pick a darker blue. See how that looks. Better. Since my light source comes from top to bottom, shadow should be at the bottom of the shape. Okay, next up, I draw a highlight. Again, I'll get a lighter blue, and I'll brush that highlight in. Now that was way too much, so I'm going to turn my brush opacity down, way down. And that didn't look good, so I'm going to make my brush size smaller. Too small. Too small. I'll make it bigger. And I'm going to make my opacity less. Opacity is the transparency of the brush. Brush. Not bad. And then I'm going to take my lasso tool, and I'm going to create an area of extreme highlight. Put my feathering a bit higher, to 5. Make a selection that follows the shape of what I'm coloring. And I'm going to fill that with the lightest color that there is, white, but I'm going to only do it to 25%. Okay, that was still a bit much, so I'll fade it, Command-Shift-F, or go under Edit, Fade, Fill, just like fading a gradient right after doing it. Okay, let's see how that looks. Not bad. Okay, maybe I'll make another highlight area. And this one, I'm going to go and fade it, or sorry, fill it with another 25% white. And how does that look? Okay, too much probably. Fade it again. Okay, so now this area is done. Now I would move on to the next.